Okay. Just a little bit more and then... That is loud. I guess it's good enough, right? No, my voice is, wow, not carrying. That should be better. Okay. This is gonna take a while. Yeah. Okay. Let's this is gonna be fun with my mic catching the fan. I guess I can have it off. Never mind, my PC fan's louder. Or it's the same. Alright, well, it can't be helped. Unless I put like some kind of cloth around it so it's only my voice. Like... I don't think that makes a difference. I don't think this cloth is thick enough. Oh well. It's fine. I'll do the intro to the video in a separate recording. For now, let's just get the important part done. I feel my voice will be troubled while we do this. Okay. Can't help most of it. I would like to clear these notifications if possible. There we go. Okay. Alright, well, let's just get this over with. Record. Alright. Alright. Now my mic is maybe gonna peak a couple times. That'll be fun. Who did I start with last time? Did I not start with Airi? No, because Trinity was in the middle. Okay. Alright, let's start this tier list. Hopefully this is the last time I decide to do one of these and stop with the milking, but only time will tell. So this time we're going to be starting in alphabetical order. And I left all the alts at the very end. So we're going to go through all the base characters from A to Y. And then we're going to go through the alts from A to Y. So that'll be fun. Last time it took me, I think, a total of 5 to 6 hours of cumulative recording. And now there have been significantly more students in the last 12 months. That said, the more the merrier until I get burned out. So, without further ado, let us begin with Airi. Now, while the intro animation is important when determining whether an L2D is good or not, the most important thing is what we're looking at right now is the looping animation. So it's a good thing that she's in focus. I don't think there's any L2D where the student isn't in focus. The background blur is nice. I know for Jamie's videos, they're not all going to be blurred like they are in the game, so I can't really look at that too much. But What I can always look at is the color and stuff and the shading. So that's what we're going to be spending our time looking at. Now, I'm pretty sure there are some L2Ds where the student isn't looking... No, that's not true. Are there any L2Ds where the student's not looking at you? That's not true. But there is sometimes some distance. Like, let's say Mika's or Minori's, they're sitting fairly distant. Like, there is some space that you can feel. With Airi, it does feel like she's right next to you. So if you like the live 2Ds where they're right up and close to you, Airi is not a bad choice. The daylight scheme with the ice cream is nice. Something to keep in mind, I'm pretty sure this might be one of the older live 2Ds. Not super old, but like maybe first or second year because she's a 2-star. The art style is not bad. You have to be a fan of mint chocolate to like Airi's initial design, I feel. Because green, brown hair, literally chocolate. So if you don't like mint chocolate, you might not want to bother with Airi's live 2D as a wallpaper. However, the background is nice. You know, we have sakura blossoms, or just blossoms in general. I don't know what kind they are. There's some nice water in the background here. I like water in my L2Ds. I think like glistening water is nice when done properly. There have been examples where some of the water is done terribly. In this case, the water's not bad, but it is pretty far off in the distance. The grass is pretty green, a little yellowish for my taste, but bright enough, not too bad. Overall, it's pretty solid L2D. Nothing special, for sure. Nothing pops out at you except Airi. So it really is a middle-of-the-road L2D. Like, there's nothing offensive, but there's not too much you can get out of it. That being said, I think A tier. A for Airi. Whether she goes down into A- or stays in A tier, I don't know yet. But I don't think she will go into the A+ tier. But that's just one of, I think, 220 L2Ds. We're going to be here for a while. 224. Let me restart this. So, I'm speaking so loudly. Let me turn my mic down. So, Akane's is also one where you really have to like a very specific color, or you might not like the L2D. In Akane's case, if you don't like this orange brownish shade, like bronze, or maybe like light brown, bronze light brown kind of fusion. If you don't like duller, browner colors, if you're one that likes bright colors or much darker colors, this might look a little murky to you. In my case, I think it looks fine. I'm not too averse to this L2D, but I will say the not monocolor, but the very monotone-ish theme is definitely it's a niche for sure. With Airi's, we had a blend of colors outside of herself. You know, we had the blossoms, which were pink, the grass was green, the road was gray, the water was blue, the sky was blue too. In this case, the sky is white, the walls, the flowers, the photo frame, her hair, half of her clothing. It's this same similar shade with very little variance. So if you like your backgrounds to have this dullish theme that doesn't really pop out at you too much, you'll like it. If you like the popping out, you might not like it. So this was a very hit or miss one for me. Like I said, I don't mind it, but it's not my thing. So I think A- because compared to Airi's, Akane, your tastes have to be a little more specific. If your taste is just I like cute student on my screen, any of the L2Ds will work for you. But when we're talking about mass appeal or specific appeal, Akane's appeal is definitely specific towards this very specific color. So now we're getting into more of the color variation like we had with Iris. Here we have a lot of gold and yellow, but I mean Iris, I said Airi like 5 times. Akari, we have a lot of gold and yellow. Her eyes are blue and pink, and then all the trays down here are pretty varied. You can't really help that they're all the way down here, but I feel like if this splash of color was maybe more towards the top, this would be much nicer to look at. But, I mean, I think gold appeals to most people, and maybe you can call it yellow, but it's very close to gold. Now, that might just be a metaphor for how much this all costs, but either way, I don't mind it. Again, these are like older L2Ds, so they don't really have anything crazy because these aren't special students. They're not fest students. They're not even 3 stars. So of course I wouldn't call it lackluster, but these L2Ds are just there because they're not as bad as the really old L2Ds, but they don't have as much appeal, at least to me, as some of the later ones might have. Now, it is worth mentioning that bright might sometimes mean too bright. We will see that with Toki Bunny in about 2 hours. But the brightness really only extends here, like in these empty plates, maybe up here a little bit. There have been brighter L2Ds. This is one of the brighter ones. But as for wallpaper appeal, I guess you might get tired of the bright colors. But if bright colors is something you enjoy, especially in the daytime, this will be fine. Do keep caution if you're going to play Blue Archive or use this wallpaper in general at night. It might flash you. So I think probably A- tier as well. Iris is mellow enough, but not so dull like Akane's that it appeals to fewer people. I think Airi for now has been the perfect example of like a very balanced tier live 2D. While these two, you have to be a little more careful. Especially with the Karis, you might flash yourself, and with the Kanes, you might get bored of it. Oh my god. I'm sure Sensei didn't ask Akko to do this. Whatever you call that. But all right. Hey, okay. Sure. Akko does approach the Akane level of one color. Her outfit's the same color as her hair, which is almost the same color as the walls, and then the sky, the light outside, the fluorescent light is just white. I think one caveat, on the other hand, besides the subject matter of the live 2D, which is your own preference, is that especially Akko's hair and eye color, it's brighter. So there's immediately more visual appeal just because Akko's hair and eyes are brighter than Akane's, which are brown, light brown, and dark brown. And then never mind the pose and the situation, which just makes it appeal all the more at a first glance and in subsequent glances. So where Akane falls, I think Akko makes up for it a little bit. Again, definitely as well, if you're one of the more, how should I say, cautious Blue Archive players, this one definitely isn't for you. Probably don't pull this out in a public space unless you're shameless. Top of A-. Again, Alice is next. No, it should be Alba's. Wait, was Alba's not in here? Wait, what? Who's next? Alba, Alice. No, Alice is next. Okay. Oh, it depends on if you say Alice or Aris. We'll do Alice because it's in the playlist. Alright, so again, like Akko's, Alice's starts to approach this one color. On the other hand, it is Alice, so I think that's extra points just because she is Alice. You have some decent lighting contrast too with the screen in front in camera POV, and then the dimmed background. It's very simple. So again, if you want some more flashiness, this might not be the live 2D for you. Yeah, not much in the color variation so far. A lot of these live 2Ds have been really mono themed, and there is an appeal to that. And I mean, in general, blue is a more appealing color than brown or whatever Akane's color is. So that's why these aren't as bad. This is also safer to use in public, much safer. In fact, so far out of all of them, the only unsafe one really is Akko's. And by some extension, Akari's. There are some touches we can appreciate, like the consoles in the back and the GDD logo flashing on that console as well. Hey, Q Alice, what else can I say, right? Spoils. What else can I say, right? There is nothing else to say. I think, again, the lack of color variance, I still think it's A tier because Alice, and I don't think that's outrageous to say. I think that is a perfectly valid take to say A tier because Alice. Hold on. I'm pausing the recording real quick. Something is incredibly lagging Chrome. I don't know what it is, but Chrome is operating very slowly right now. There we go. Is that it? Is that enough of a fix? Whoops. Is that enough of a fix? Because it looked really laggy for the beginning parts. Do you guys? I'm gonna redo. I've done this a couple times. I'm gonna actually redo this because I feel like I talked too much for some of them. So if you don't excuse me, I'm gonna scrap the current recording. For everyone that's here right now, you get an insight into what it's like when I try to do these large recordings. I just end up restarting it 5 minutes in 3 times. This time, I'm going to try to ramble less because I was rambling so much. And we're going to keep the rambling a lot shorter. We're going to keep our points concise. And we're going to make it easier on the editor. Me. Alright. So without further ado, this is take 1 of the recording because we have not started this yet. All right. Gotta make sure my voice is clear so I don't have to repeat myself 7 times during a sentence. Let's just check make sure. The frame rate's still a little chopped because it's an old one, but it doesn't look like it's 20 frames per second anymore, which is good enough. So let's do this. Let me put on my glasses. Oh, they're downstairs, whatever. Okay, here we go. Alright, so we're going to start the hopefully final Live 2D tier list. There are so many more students than before, and it's going to take so much longer to record. But my opinions have been refined, and overall, I think this will be a much more balanced tier list. And it will suck way more to edit, but that's okay. Here we go. So this one's going to be in different order. This one's going to go alphabetical. We're going to do all the base ones first, so we're skipping the alts until the end, and then we're going to go back and do all the alts in a row. Just so there's some more variance and we're not doing the same character multiple times before moving on to the next. Sometimes I tend to judge between alts, which it's not, in my opinion, I don't think it's too fair. It's going to be happening anyway once all the alts are together. But for now, I kind of want to see at a baseline, how does the base student perform before we go into all their special alts and stuff. We want to see what the student is like normally, right? So we're going to start with all the bases, and then we'll move on to the alts. So here we go. Pause. Why is the frame rate so bad? Is it because I'm recording? Hold on. But the recording software is the same as the stream. All right, let me check real quick. It's being very annoying. I don't understand. Oh, well. Let's do 720p. So we have Iris. Iris has a very balanced color composition. We have some pink here, some blue all the way up here, some green in the grass and the gray road. Also, her mint green and brown and white too. Like, there are a lot of different colors going on here. They're all blending together very well. So Iris L2D is a very good example of a very balanced one. You can't go quite wrong with it, even if you're not a fan of Mint Choco. Being a fan of Mint Choco would help if you want to use Iris Live 2D as a wallpaper or something like that. Aside from that, I think this is a perfectly fine. It's not anything too special. Again, it is one of the older L2Ds. Not super old, but somewhat old. So there isn't really anything too special, and she is a 2-star, so honestly, you take what you can get. For an older L2D, I think this is perfectly fine. I'm just going to say middle of the road, A tier. There's nothing too special about it, but there's not really anything that holds it back. I think this is good. Let's move on. Now we have Akane's. Something to note here is you'll definitely notice that there is a lack of color variation compared to Airi's. You got light brownish, maybe bronze over here, a little gold up here. The color range is very small. You get some of a break with her ribbon, and that's about it. The sky is white, so that doesn't really help either. Overall, if you like this kind of mellow color shading, you will appreciate Akane's a lot. I don't mind it, but it certainly isn't my favorite. If you like some color variation, I can safely say this one is probably not for you. With that being said, I still think it's nothing too offensive, but then again, there's not really much to offer. So I think B tier is fine. Maybe A- tier, but with so many L2Ds, you really have so much more to offer in some of these that I think B tier is fair for her. So now we have Akari's. Akari's is definitely a lot brighter than Akane's, and there is a lot more color variation. First, her uniform, the red ribbon, her eyes, and the gold theme all across, and the red borders here too. There's definitely more going on here. I kind of wish the sushi stuff was maybe up here so that we could see the color variation outright. But I mean, what with this composition, there's not really much you could do. Still, it's better than Akane's in terms of color. So overall, it's probably a easier live 2D to get into. It might be a little too bright though. Just looking at it, just the gold, the light gold, it is pretty bright. And that might be a point of contention. In my case, I would take Akane's over Akari's. But I think overall, Akari's is probably a better live 2D to use, a more satisfying one to use overall. So I think she overtakes Akane just a little bit. Maybe she'll be bottom of A-, maybe she'll even jump down to the B tier. But for now, I think that's good enough. So now we have a strange one. There's definitely a niche that you have to be into if you want to enjoy Akko's live 2D to the fullest. Similar thing to a point I made in Akane's is that there's not really too much color variation going on. Blue-ish, blue outfit. I will say though, in general, blue as a color is more appealing, so overall this live 2D is somewhat better. There's also the fact that this shade of blue, at least it's not dark blue. Like if the entire room was this shade of blue, her dress, it would be a lot worse, I think. So that we have some good light difference here too. It's not bad. I think it's easier to look at than Akane's and even Akari's. Something I will note though, if you ever play Blue Archive in public and you have Akko equipped, be careful. Maybe double check your home screen before you flip your phone to other eyes. With that being said, since we're not really worried about other people here, I think Akko's is a perfectly fine A- tier. With Akko being A- tier, I'm going to bump Akari into the B tier because Akari's is so bright. She's like the she's like the opposite. She's like the counter to Akane so far. We've only had 4 people. Oh, whoops. So, one thing to note about Alice that sets her apart from the rest of other students in general is that she's Alice, right? Alice. And I think that's already points toward her. I call it bias, but I don't think there's anything wrong with that statement. So I will say her live 2D does kind of fall to the same quote-unquote issue that I brought up with Akko's, is that blue, 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 blue with a little bit of light. I do like the light difference, you know, the screen light with the dark room in the back. That's pretty nice touch there. It is similar to Akko's as well. Still, the overall design of this live 2D is nothing too special. Just the fact that it's Alice on the screen, I think makes this live 2D enough. Especially, this live 2D does require, I wouldn't say requires, but if you are to use this live 2D, you should have read Volume 2, Chapters 1 and 2. I think this live 2D and Alice as a character in general is more enjoyable if you've already read Volume 2. You don't have to have read Volume 2. You don't have to have known the story. But to truly make this live 2D as memorable as it is, it does require story knowledge. In general, just as a wallpaper, I think it's like on the same level as Akko's. The niches are different. We have daughter niche, and then we have whatever is going on with Akko. To each their own. but I don't think it's anything too special. And compared to Iris, she's still topping the tier list so far, and she's Airi, so what do you know? So if you remember what I said about Akko's Live 2D being a niche interest, Aoba's Live 2D also hinges on a niche interest. To be fair, that quote-unquote niche interest might be a little more global, but still, without Aoba on the screen, it is a very simple Live 2D, and this is one of the newer ones too. So they were definitely going for the really simple, enclosed, homey feel here. I think at least the lighting is nice. We have a little bit extra lighting here. It does hit Aoba a little bit. That's pretty nice. But most of it is dim enough so that it doesn't hurt your eyes like Akari's. Still, if I had to compare it to the other ones so far, there's nothing besides Aoba that really stands out. And I like my live 2Ds. I like the whole background to be popping out at me, at least somewhat. That's usually why I tend to favor the night sky L2Ds, because I have a natural affinity for night skies and starry skies. I will try not to let that bias take over the tier list this time, but just keep in mind, if I have to praise the background, it's most likely that I'll praise the backgrounds that are those. In Aoba's case, it is not that. But being a newer Live 2D, the art direction is definitely much more refined than Alice's and Airi's too. Akko's does look pretty good, and I don't know if that's like a video thing or if that's just me pretending it is. I just think there's a little bit something off with, off because it's old, but I think Akko's an older unit, and hers still looks pretty modern. Aoba's is modern. Hers was released like a couple months ago. So in the end, A minus tier. Her and Akko fall into that same niche of, if this is what you're into, there you go. This is a different version of Guru Guru Usagi. This sounds lighter. Anyway, I was never a big fan of Ari's Live 2D. And the reason for that is actually pretty similar to what I was talking about in Aoba's, is that it looks simple. In Ari's case, it looks way too simple. And this is also touching on the issue with Akane's, in that if you like white wall, I guess you'll love this Live 2D. But if you like color, like I do, Akko's Halo, Aru's Halo is as good as it gets. Aru herself is fine. Her character design is pretty good. And that's really what's saving this Live 2D. I say this for most of the characters. Take away Aru, it's so boring. It's an office chair in front of a white drywall with one shutter. I don't like it. I think if you're gonna use an Aru Live 2D, use one of her alts. Because unless you're looking at it for this face of Aru's and some other part down below, it's not worth it, because the rest of your screen is just gonna look so lackluster. With New Year Aru, you have the dark sky, and with Dress Aru, you have the orange bar atmosphere. That's a niche if I've ever heard of one. this is this it makes me feel fewer emotions than Akane's C tier. It doesn't work for me. It does not work for me. Maybe it works for you. And hey, off meta pick. If you're into off meta picks, go ahead. But I don't see the appeal. I think I see the appeal of this one. I don't want to jump to conclusions. I don't want to assume, but I think I might know the appeal of this specific live 2D. Now again, take away Asuna, and the background is pretty mellow. I'm not going to say boring. There's more going on here, and the lighting is way nicer. With ours, not only was it white drywall, the lighting was so dim. It's just so boring. In Asuna's case, the lighting is much better. We have the bright middle point. Just don't look there. Just look around, and you'll see the lighting is perfectly fine. A little lack of color, but it's a basic neighborhood. What can you do? Now, the fact that Asuna is there makes this an incredibly niche live 2D centered solely around whether you like Asuna as a person and Asuna as a person. It's very niche. A lot of these are very niche. But there are, when we get to the alts and some like the anyway. It's not as bad as ours. It's I guess it's a little more visually appealing than Akane's, if I had to put it in some way. Top of B tier. If you love Asuna, SS tier, whatever. That's not me, though. Okay. Whew. Finally. Now, I know a lot of people love Atsuko. I'm not about to say it, but I don't. That would be blasphemy. I have one slight nitpick with Atsuko's, and this is a personal nitpick. This is not globally defining like ours. Ours is just a fact that there's nothing good to say about the background of ours. In Atsuko's case, this is a personal feeling. There's a lot of blur. It's like camera lens subject matter only blur. And in some cases that might work pretty well. And honestly, Atsuko's dress here, I never really noticed, but this silk design is really nice. It's just too bad that we don't really get to see a lot of it besides her arms because of the bouquet. Now that's not to say that the bouquet is bad, it's just saying that we can't have both. The bouquet design is nice. I do like that we have a little bit of color variance, orange, pink, white. It is dominated by white, purple, blurple, blue. That's not a bad color scheme. Again, blue does appeal to a lot of people. Her red eyes do give some nice little contrast to the rest. But let me talk about the blur. There's so much blur. The blur is so strong that it feels a little cramped. It feels so much. I like the blur. I think that this live 2D works really well with the blur, and you need at least a little blur to make a live 2D good in a lot of cases. Just here, I don't know what's going on in the background. I'd like to at least feel the background a little bit. Here, it just feels like she's enclosed in blur, and it doesn't work for me. Because half of the L2D is the background. If you're going to have a nice live 2D as a wallpaper, you want the background to be nice. You want your screen to be filled with 100% awesomeness. I don't have a better adjective there. Someone said the blur kind of looks like the Google Meet filter. Voice chat blurs in general, they want to make sure that you can't see the background. Here, I wish we could see the background, but they want us to not see the background. I don't understand why. Is it a garden? I don't know where these flowers were picked from. And everyone loves Atsuko. And a lot of people love Atsuko's Live 2D. I am not averse to Atsuko's Live 2D. However, the blur is too much. The blur knocks it down for me. I would love to give bias to Princess Atsuko, Princess Akari, Restless Gambler, and give her higher tier. But the blur, it's always bugged me, and it still bugs me. Now here's a niche everyone can get into. When girls with glasses take them off, you can very clearly see the vision on the screen. The color variance is a little bland, but it works with Ayane because the lighting is the lighting works well. First, we have the amber eyes and the brown hair contrasting well with the cooler blue and green of the background. And the blur works better here because we can clearly see the faucet, we can clearly see the wall. The blur is in the background. The trees and the sky in the back that are so far away, it's okay to be blurred. But we can see more of the background than just her. If we maxed out every character's background, L2Ds would be trash and I would not be here talking about them. In this case, this L2D is great. And Ayane's character design, especially glasses off, is so badass. The little braid and the hair clip here, the elf ears, all nice touches. Ayane in just her shirt, no blazer. I'm telling you, I mean, I haven't mentioned this yet, but my favorite style of clothing, one sec. All right, where were we? Yeah. Uh, so there are two niches here. Girls with glasses that no longer have them on, and students with multiple layers of clothing in their uniform that reduce themselves to the base layer. Millennium no jacket. Abydos no blazer. Those are really the only notable examples, but you get the vision. You get the vision. Now, this one is Akane levels of mellow. However, the composition and the medium's premium, you can't even tell. Don't. You can barely tell, especially because she's leaning down. This is biased, okay? Me putting Ayane in A tier is a little bit biased. But I think the design of this Live 2D is perfect. Not perfect. It's great. The blur is great. The color design is mellow enough that it doesn't overwhelm you, but varied enough that it doesn't bore you. And you get a new design to Ayane that you don't normally see. Ayane has the benefit of being able to take off her glasses and look like this. A lot of characters don't have that privilege unless they decide to put glasses on, vice versa. This is a stellar Live 2D. For a Live 2D that's so simple in concept, it works so well for those reasons. It's better than Airi's. Let's move on. Maybe A+. We'll find out.
悪くないけど、可愛いぬいぐるみがいっぱいなのはいいけど、なんだか恥ずかしい。
Alright. Azusa benefits very well from what we were talking about in Aris. Color variants. Yellow, pink, blue, black, white, purple, gold. Pororo, green in the background. Bright sky doesn't take up too much of the screen so that it doesn't flash you like Akari's. And Bunny Toki's, which we will see in about like 2.5 hours. It's bright, and bright for a good reason. You know, sometimes it's bright for a bad reason. Akari. In this case, it's bright and it works very well. It's not too bright. Also, Azusa plus fluff. That's like Azusa fluff times fluff equals double fluff. What can I say? What can I say? Azusa and Airi definitely share the trait of cute small character in cute setting. It works better in Azusa's case because Airi was just on the street. She was lucky that there were blossoms nearby. In Azusa's case, she's literally being bombarded by stuffed animals and the hugging the skull man. Cherry on top. Cherry on top. I mean, because if she... Whoa! Sorry, I hit the 0 button. Sorry. You cannot go wrong with this L2D. The only thing is, there's one thing I try not to talk about. There's one thing I try not to factor too much, is the art quality, because I think that's entirely subjective. The way Azusa is drawn here feels a little like older than maybe Akko's or Ayane's or all the later characters, except Swimsuit Shiroko. So it feels a little less satisfying than it would at its peak if it was drawn like maybe a couple weeks ago, a couple months ago. But I try not to let that bother me too much. Mostly we're just here for the picture in general. In this case, I think Azusa is the best one we've seen so far. Now, I think the art style is actually what's keeping me from putting an A+ tier. But high A tier, still very solid. If she stays at the top of the A flat tier, hey, out of 200 characters, 224, that's perfectly fine. Alright. There is one caveat to the one color argument. The snow theme. White, red, blue, and shades of blue for snow. I think snow is among one of the only exceptions where the entire screen can be basically one color and it still looks good. With Aru's, remember, I know I keep bashing the old ones, but I need to work off a baseline. With Aru's, it was grayish and dull. With Cherino's, it's brighter white. One sec. Alright. So where were we? Yeah. There are some other colors to give this some variation that it needs. So, no complaints there. Hey, Cherino's cute, alright? Especially without her mustache. If you've read some of the Red Winter stories, I like Cherino. And this is gonna be a little bit of character bias coming into play. I don't love Cherino, but she is cute. And so, again, even if snow is the exception to the one color argument, it is still just like really one color with a couple of added sparks at the end of the day. So I feel like she's just A minus tier. Again, this is like 10 out of 200. So this tier list will expand eventually. For now, everyone's concentrated about mostly a pretty decent spot. I know it's a little toward the lower side. But the important thing with tier lists is to keep the top tiers exclusive. If we put everything up there, nothing is special. All right, let's keep going. So there are a couple of things to mention with Chiaki's live 2D. One, she gets buffed. If you take a look at Chiaki's sprite, you will notice there is a major difference in one critical area. Two, Chiaki's adorable. I really like Chiaki as a character. I wasted a spark pulling for her, and I don't regret it. Even if anniversary is going to be hard this time around, I don't regret getting Chiaki, even if she gets power crept, which yeah, she will. So, now let's talk about color variants, since I seem to like talking about that a lot. Her outfit and hair do resemble the desk and the underside a lot. We really don't get too much of a color variance here. So this appeal is very similar to Aoba's, where it really depends on how much you like the character. If you don't care about looking at Chiaki and her pose and her situation, this live 2D is kind of boring. Now, I like Chiaki's design, and I like the way she's presented in this live 2D. So that's why I like this live 2D. But in general, you do have to consider how boring this live 2D would be if you do not care about Chiaki. So with that in mind, I can really only put it around the B to A minus tier. Hers is really falling under the same circumstance as Asuna's. And as much as I don't like it, this isn't really my tier list, but this is what I think. This is how I think every Live 2D is at being an effective wallpaper. So, this may not necessarily be how I would rank whether I would wallpaper the Live 2D, or this is not necessarily the order in which I would wallpaper these L2Ds, but I think in general this is a pretty good ordering of how people might like to order the Live 2Ds for wallpapers in general. Let me get the light real quick. With that in mind, I mean, yeah, at the end of the day, it is still me, so I do somewhat follow this order somewhat accurately. I don't like Aris, so she's down here, and I like these three, so they're up there. Let's just keep going. Alright. Chihiro seems a bit similar to Alice's, doesn't it? We have this dark, moody atmosphere. The main color here is blue, though to be fair, Chihiro has the color variation completely down pat. All these stickers, all these drinks, if you need a color, it's most likely there, so you can't really complain about just one color. And I mean, you do have these flashes of red too, so it really gives you that night street district feel, which does fit pretty well here. As a wallpaper, this is perfectly fine. The blur here is pretty effective. I think it might come on a little too strong around these edges, but in the middle here, it's supposed to be blurred just as much as it is. So I have no major complaints about the blur. And Chihiro, Chihiro probably one of the most mature and well kept students in all of Kivodos that we know. So her having this type of mellow live 2D fits perfectly with her character. As for how well it works as a wallpaper, it's got more going on than the A minus tiers. I compared it to Alice's, but it does more than Alice's. I would say very bottom of A tier so far. Again, this tier list is different from how I feel about some of these characters too, because I like Aru, I like Chiaki, I like their character designs a lot, but their live 2Ds overall, they just have something missing. Okay. Akane, all brown. Chinatsu, I mean, she wears a lot of deep red, like nearly scarlet red, and it really makes some of these pop. It really makes her pop, which I guess is the point of the live 2D. The lighting is pretty good. There's no bright light in this. There really isn't any place where you would look and your eyes would be hurt unless it's like 5 a.m. I have no major complaints with this. The only thing I will say is that there's nothing too exciting about it. Now, I say exciting in visual terms. If you look at, if you do some comprehension and analyze how Chinatsu is currently looking and sitting on this bed, then you can get a really good picture of what is going on. And honestly, isn't that just stellar? I still think it falls a little short just because the lack of color, and even though the red gives it the popping feeling compared to Akane's, the red is a little out of place, so this light 2D doesn't really blend well. Unless you take note of what red means, but in general, I think Chinatsu's is fine, just A minus, nothing too special. Alright. I will be honest. When I first started playing Blue Archive, Chise's was one of my favorite character designs. And that's just because I had a bias toward this very specific shade of blue, which is also present in Akko. I still don't have Akko to this day, which makes me really upset, but that's besides the point. I remember, if you remember, I was foreshadowing that I would be endlessly praising these night sky backgrounds. We have one. I will say the stars are a little distant and not even like shining. They're just lighter dots in the background, which is a little lackluster. The moon is one of the only exceptions to lighting that's too bright that's okay. When it's bright light that shines through windows, sometimes it's way too glaring, but for some reason, when in contrast to this night sky, it's really not that bad to look at. And when Chise's not dozing off or saying something stupid, her design works well with this type of atmosphere. And the way Chise is looking, she is very fitting of the title of princess. So overall, again bias. I think this live 2D is solid. Uh, in general, I still think Ayane's does a little more, but I think Chise does outperform Airi's and Chihiro's. Yeah, Chihiro and Airi are about neck and neck. I'll just keep Airi on top. She needs some wins in her life. We know base Airi, you know. Chihiro, her character design's good enough. She's fine where she is. I'm going to be as objective as I can hope to be with Eimi. The thing is, I don't really even like Amy's character design that much. I understand what they're going for, and it's just unappealing to me. There's a reason why Mimori is my favorite character, and Eimi is a good example of the opposite of what I like in a character. Well, with some exceptions. Her face, designed by the same artist that did Mashiro, and both of these characters are cute. And I like the pink of her hair. And as a character, I don't mind her. But just this live 2D, it just does nothing for me. And I don't know, this atmosphere, the lighting is fine. The bright light blurred is fine. It's not too hard on the eyes, and Eimi is covering most of the light in the back middle right anyway. It's just this situation in general, it frankly it's a little uncomfortable, but aside from that, since this is a private space, safe space, it's just I feel like it's lackluster. The composition of the live 2D itself is completely harmless. And this is really just me putting my own biases into this ranking, but as a live 2D, it's perfectly normal. It's just... well, in terms of color, yeah, it's not bad. Again, like Akko's, careful if you're out in public. Amy's character design alone is already risky, but her just holding up two bras, and considering the primary demographic of Blue Archive players, you ought to be careful. If you want to be safe with your live 2Ds, it's Mimori, Haruka, Juri, Mari. It's just safe picks, alright? A minus. So many of these live 2D back-to-backs have the same theme. Alright. So this is an example of a live 2D with good daylight lighting. I mean, the composition of this one's pretty simple. It's not nearly as uncomfortable. This one does highly depend on your affinity for Fubuki and or her character design. In my case, I like Fubuki, and I like her character design, so this is something I like. But maybe if I had to compare it to someone, honestly, I could compare it to Amy's. In general, it plays pretty similar to Amy's. One major difference is that the blur is very light. It's unless Jamie did like an upscaling thing, but yeah. But again, I can't really talk about the blur too much because Jamie does a lot of upscaling. So the only difference it really makes is when it's like Atsuko's, in which it really becomes a problem. But most of the time, it either helps it or it's just a nice touch, maybe. I don't really have a big problem with this. Fubuki, this is highly dependent on whether you like Fubuki. Otherwise, it is kind of boring. The colors are fine, you know, a couple shades of blue, pavement, and the yellow lime. Aside from that, though, the background of this live 2D is not really all there, but it does match Fubuki. I would say this is a little more exciting than the B tier ones, though. There are more colors. I'm gonna say middle of the road. Atsuko's definitely pops out more, especially because of the blur. But Fubuki's is more well-rounded, so it's pretty 50-50 for that. Now, depending on whether you've seen the alternate version of this live 2D or not, it might influence your opinion of this. In general, this is a pretty good live 2D. The sparkles with the home atmosphere, can't go wrong with that. Fuka just taking up the entire screen. What's the problem there? For some reason, I like the added touch of the X on the mushrooms. I just think it's cool. All the cooking stuff is pretty well colored. It is good eye candy, and who doesn't like food, right? I think the sparkles and the way back lighting is what really makes the background for this live 2D. You can tell that the lighting is very far away, but it still hits the room with the perfect amount of light, honestly. And so none of it hurts your eyes. In fact, it's pretty pleasing to look at. I don't have any major complaints with this live 2D. The kitchen does look kind of old. I think this is the chalet kitchen. Couldn't fool me. Or could have fooled me, honestly. This looks like a basic apartment kitchen. If the kitchen looked a little flashier, this probably would be a much better live 2D. But where it is now, no problems whatsoever. Just a perfectly wonderful live 2D. It's like the fourth Guru Usagi in a row. Once I make it into a video, I'm going to have my own audio over it, so it's not going to matter. Hana, I was going to compare it to Chiaki's, but you do get a little bit of color here with the blinds, this stuff, and Hana herself. Hana is a very colorfully designed person. And I know normally here's where I'd say without Hana, this place would look boring. It would. It's a hospital. It's a hospital room. Of course it'd look boring. But Hana's character design is colorful enough that I don't see the problem with it. One moment. One moment. All right. Yeah. No major problems, except the background's a little boring. It is a hospital. What can you do? The outside is a little bright, but it is blurred, so not bad either. It's a little lackluster. I think this is like a Chiaki level live 2D. I think Chiaki's got a better background, but Hane as a subject matter, as a character, is better. So that's where I'm putting her. What is happening to the frame rate? What is going on? Why does it lag out so bad? It's dropping so many frames. What is going on? One moment, please. Let me pause the stream real quick. What is going on here? I guess it's just Chrome being Chrome, really, but oh well. You'd think that after getting a better computer, this would be a lot easier. Maybe it's because I'm live streaming. Holy shit. That is bad. Hold on. I cannot keep that in the recording. I gotta look up a solution to this. Let me pause. Honestly, I'm not too sure. This might just be, let me just restart Chrome. One moment, please. Oh wait, that just reset my tier list. Fuck. Ah, well. Well, amazing news, everyone. I have to do some... That's the wrong window. I have to do some behind-the-scenes work again. Because for some reason... This damn... this takes like 20 minutes, too. Which is the worst part. It just takes so long. Does this at least work? At least it's moving as it should. That's fine. I can compromise. Now, this tier list is now completely out of order. In order to fix it, it will take me, let's just say, a while. Now, please be patient with me as I move to fix this. While I'm fixing it, I'll play some music or something. Oh, I think I closed that tab. Well, that's that. Let me play. Can I like play one of my OSTs that I have saved, like the the camping theme? Oh yeah. outline here. Nope, that's the background. Here. Alright. This is fun. Hasumi is next. Then nope, not Miku, Hibiki. Then Hifumi, Hikari, Himari. Hikari should be in the middle somewhere. Himari. Oh, Hikari, then Himari. And then Hina. And then Hinata. Hiyori. Hoshino. Why is Pina up here? Ibuki. Ichika. Hiyori. Iroha. Zumi. Izuna. Junko. Juri. Kaide. Wherever she is. Kaho and then Kana. Where's Kaho? Where's Kana? Karen, Kasumi, Kayoko. Wow, this sucks. Kazusa. Kikyo, Kirara. Cherino. Kisaki. Koharu. Kokona. Kotama. Kotori. And Koyuki. Maki, Makoto, Mari, Marina, Mashiro, Megu, then Meru, Michiru, Midori, Mika, Mimori, Mina, Mine, Minori, by Minamine Himari. Misaki, Miyako, Miyu, Misaki, Moe, Momiji, Momoe, Mutsuki. Nagisa, Nagusa, plot twist. Nagisa, Nagusa, and Natsu. Neru and Nia. Noah and Nodoka, and then Nonomi, and then Nozomi, and then Pina, and then Rei, and then Reijo, and then Reisa. Then Renge, Rio. What am I doing? I'm reordering the tier list because when I reloaded the page it was messed up. I'm ordering it the way that I intend to do it, so I don't have to find them while we're doing the tier list. Thank you for your patience. Saki, Sakurako, Sayori, Satsuki, Saya, Seiya, Senna, Does L2D rank depend on the higher the better? Typically. For the most part, if I think it makes a better wallpaper, I will talk about why I put each one where it is. But typically, if I think it makes for a better wallpaper, it'll be higher. Serika, Cherino, Shigure. Where's Hikari? Kisaki Live 2D comment section. Should I take a look when we get there at some of the newer ones? One moment, please. Are you opening the Blue Archive? No, I have a YouTube playlist. I have one account global. I don't play JP. I don't really care that much. Where am I? Sorry, I'm eating oranges right now. So if I sound like I'm eating something, I am. Sugar. Why couldn't I find you? Because you're hiding. Shimiko, Shiroko, Kuroko, Shizuko, Shun, Sumire, Suzumi, Toki, Tomoe, Shibaki, Skuyo, Tsurugi, Ui, Mika, Utaha, Wakamo, Yoshimi, Hikari, Yukayuzu. Cool, now for the alts. There's a couple I forgot to add, hold on. Wait, no, I didn't have to add these. I'm dumb. Oh well, they'll just sit in the back. I had to add them for the previous tier list. Whoops. Small mistake there, but fine. Where's Airi? Akane. Akari. Ako. Alice. Aru. Asuna. Atsuko. Ayane. Azusa. Cherino. Chise, Eimi, Fubuki, Fuka. Hanai. Hanako. Haruka, Hana, Hasumi, Hibiki, Hifumi, Hina, Hina, Hinata, Hiyori, Hoshino, Hiyori, Asuna, Junko, Jerry, Kana, Karin, Karen again, Kayoko, run it back. Kazusa, Kikyo, Cherino, and Koharu, and then Kotama, and then Kotori, and then Maki, Mashiro, Midori, that's Momoi, Midori, Mimori, Mine, sorry, blanking. Miyako, Yu, Moi, Shimomoi, Utsuki, Natsu, Nonomi, Hina, Renge, Saki, Sakurako, Sayori. Sayori. Saya. Senna. Serika. Serika twice. Serena. Shigure. Shiroko. Shiroko again. Shizuko. Shun. Sumire. Toki. Tomoe. Tsubaki. Tsurugi. Aoi. Taha. Wakamo. Yuka. Yuzu. Yoshimi. Hikari. Did I forget? No, those are the extras. Hoshino armed S tier, high chance it's not happening. Fair warning, haven't even given A+ to anything yet. So the chance of armed Hoshino, of all things, getting S tier is fairly low. Now, I'm not saying it's bad, I'm just saying it's not S tier. How long until finally we can finally get back? I know the music's like loud as hell right now, just let me turn it off and we can continue with what we are supposed to be doing on this stream. Sorry for the loud glasses case click. All right, jeez. Now let's continue. For a live 2D that you unlock, one, very immediately, you unlock as soon as you get her, and two, one that honestly looks so simple, it's really well designed, honestly. Why did the bitrate fall? Alright. I like the composition of this live 2D. We get a nice calm sky, some good water physics. Nexon doesn't always hit with the water physics, but in this case, it's mellow enough that it works very well. A partially embarrassed Hanako. I don't know why, but sure. This atmosphere is so peaceful. And Hanako's design is already enough colors, thanks to the Trinity uniform popping out. And her hair and eyes. And the pink is enough of a contrast to the blue of the sky that this wallpaper, this live 2D for a wallpaper, it's very pleasant to look at. There's nothing too crazy, and there's nothing boring, I don't think. Especially since Hanako is, in every sense of the word, very large on the screen, so... yeah. This live 2D is good. No complaints. Similar to Chise's, I think I'll put Hanako over Chise probably. No complaints from me. All right. Sorry about the audio for. All right, so Aris, we have Cartman from South Park here. This one, requires you. It doesn't require you, but this one at least you should be into the casual clothing niche. It's not even an unpopular niche. I consider myself a very strong advocate for the casual clothing niche, but I would say it's very easy to get into such a niche. I mean, now aside from the background being kind of for an internet cafe, one office keyboard, I guess. Hey, no major complaints for me. I mean, Hara is the subject matter. The color composition is pretty nice and subtle. I think the major problem I had with like Alice's and Akko's is that it was too much dimness. Like I like dark themes, especially night sky themes, but I don't like dim themes very much. As opposed to brighter or more visually appealing themes. This one, there's a lot of good light. Overall, it's not too bad. The whatever is on the door kind of makes this place look like a storage room, and that's just a personal thing. But for me, it kind of detracts from the whole thing. But that's really a personal issue. Overall, I don't think this live 2D is problematic. I will say, a lot to be desired for sure, but not that much to be desired. It's perfectly serviceable. I will still give it A minus just cause, but A minus is by no means a bad tier. It's just eventually we will get to very good live 2Ds. Alright. Good girl Haruka. Now, this is another one of those mellow live 2Ds that you come to appreciate, mostly because, well, one, it's part of her character, but two, the light from the background in the top corner really does give this atmosphere some really well-deserved, really lovely shading. Again, it turns out whenever the shading or the color approaches these shades of light blue or sometimes even purple, I tend to be a lot more enthusiastic about it in general. And even though there are a couple of points you could make that are similar to negative points that I usually make, all in all, it's not a bad live 2D in the slightest. I think I did mention Alice gets away with her L2D because she's Alice. Haruka gets away with her L2D because she's Haruka. Again, I don't think that's a bad opinion. I think that is perfectly valid to say that Haruka's live 2D works simply because she is Haruka. Still, being completely fair, as a wallpaper, a little bit on the duller side. That said, the lighting in the corner gives you this kind of like mystical forest kind of feel. You know, this color does kind of remind you of those mystical forests. And if you're into that, I think this live 2D will work really well for you. In general, kind of middle of the road, like most of these have been. Nothing has really stood out to me as truly spectacular so far. We'll just have to wait and see. Maybe A minus tier. I'll give it bottom of A tier. I'm a little biased, but that's okay. That's my tier list. Hasumi. Wait, no, it should be Haruna. Well, whatever. Small mistake. This live 2D is old. This live 2D is old. And to me, that's a problem. Yeah, even if you look at Hasumi's design, and yeah, I guess it matches the style of this live 2D, but you can tell that this is one of the older live 2Ds, just in the art style, and it truly detracts. And the thing about Hasumi and her character appeal and both of her live 2Ds is it really centers around her figure. And maybe I guess you can make the argument that in her track live 2D, half of it is actually centered around her weight complex, which in the end of the day is centered around her figure. So it's another thing where if you really like Hasumi's body type, sure, this might work for you. And even if it does work for you, I just cannot get over the fact that the art quality is not there as much as a lot of the other ones have been. Unfortunately, for me, that is as much of a deal breaker as the background of Aru's. It's not as bad as Aru's, but with so many L2Ds to choose from, I just don't think it's worth choosing one that's so old and so unrefined. If they updated that live 2D to match their current art style, maybe I could see it working out. But at the end of the day, what it is right now, it's not there. Alright. Haruna's very close to approaching the level of blur of Atsuko's. And again, like I said, I have a big problem with the blur in Atsuko's. This is approaching it, but you can see enough of the outline of the background. In fact, you can see a pretty good chunk of the background too. All things considered, it's enough blur. Thank you, pizza. It's enough blur that makes Haruna stand out as much as she deserves to, while at the same time letting us see what kind of scenario we're in without making it seem like she's floating in space. So the blur is perfect here. Not perfect, it's a little strong, but it's fine. The colors are great. The nice blend of orange, purple, a little bit of blue, a little bit yellow, orange, blue, purple, that kind of blend really does make a night atmosphere special. It's a completely different feel from just the starry sky of black and white, or blurple and white, whatever. I like this live 2D, and it feels like one of the older ones too, kind of like Azusa's. This feels on an art quality style similar to Azusa's. That being said, Azusa's was rated high, and I think this one deserves a pretty high rating too. Where overall quality of live 2D is concerned, I think overall this is kind of Haruka level. Which crazy, I mean their names are right next to each other. I would say Haruka's no, Haruna's is a little more enticing overall, but at the end of the day, whichever live 2D you make your wallpaper or you make your lobby screen, whatever student you like the most, whichever live 2D you like looking at the most. But always trust my objective opinion, right? Because everything I say is fact, and that is scientifically proven. So, if your ears were opened for the last 2 minutes, I praised this very specific blend of Night's colors, and now we get even more. I think the blur here, the strong blur here, works so much better than it did in Haruna's, and let me tell you why. The background is far away, which means we don't really care much about it. In Haruna's case, the street was literally a couple of steps away. Over here, it's so far away that the strong blur really puts into perspective how close Hibiki is to us. Did I ever say her name? Anyway. In Haruna's case, we're so close to the street that the strong blur makes it feel a little stuffy. In this case, because everything is so far away, combining it with the strong blur actually makes it feel like Hibiki's even closer to you. There's a science to this. It's not proven by any actually practiced science. The only science you need to trust in is my science. My live 2D doctorate. I really love this L2D. Now, she has a collar on her neck with a dog tag. I never noticed that. That's a little sus, but that's nothing to do with her live 2D. So, to wrap things up, lovely blend of night sky urban colors, let's call it that. The perfect amount of blur to make it feel like Hibiki is so close in this solemn night where there's no one else around for a mile or two, or if you live in a different country, 1.4 kilometers or more. I don't know the conversion. I think it's something like that. So, where does this rank? To me, I think this is a similar enjoyment level to Azusa's. Because of the blur and everything, I think this is actually A+ tier. I think Azusa's actually might have also been A+ tier if one, it was a little more recent. Hibiki's does also seem a little old, but I'm biased, so I'll let it slide. Azusa's, I don't think she had any blur, and the lights were a little bright in some spots, but yeah, she's close to the A+ tier. I think Hibiki actually crosses that border. So here we are. Hifumi is one of the only exceptions to where... Wait, no. In general, this bright background works fine for most characters. But Hifumi, our light, yes, you and me, our light, Hifumi, Ajitani, she excels with a bright background. Put her in a dark background and a random beam of light from 1,000 gazillion light years away will shine on top of her anyway. It is impossible to paint Hifumi in a dark light because she is the walking embodiment of light. That being said, that means this background fuses with her perfectly. Now, I think we could have done for some blur in the background. I actually don't know if the original one did have blur, because this is upscaled, I think. It seems like no. It doesn't seem like it's blurred. And that's kind of a shame. Had it been blurred? What's going on here, YouTube? Had it been blurred? Had it been blurred, I think this would have been stellar. Like a very light blur. Again, like I said, she is very close to everything around her. So if the blur was too strong, it'd be another Hana situation. But a very light blur to just make Hifumi pop out a little more, because again, there's not a lot of light contrast. I think with that little amount of blur, this live 2D could have been phenomenal. That being said, it's still a really good live 2D. Hifumi's hour light. The colors are a little bit off, but I think just the mood of the live 2D makes up for everything else. It's not like Cherino's where, well, kind of, but that's middle of A tier. A little far away from her bestie, but should have had a better live 2D. Am I not doing alt skins? Alt skins are at the very end. So what's going on is that I'm doing all the base ones first. When we're done, we start all the way back with Airi and then do all the alts in a row. Thanks for your money. I mean, thanks for the super chat. I mean, thanks for your support. All right. Bitrate's failing me again. Don't do this to me. All right. So, without context of knowing what's happening, I guess maybe her tooth hurts. I don't know. I was gonna say that the background as a whole was a little mellow, and it kind of is. That said, this bluish in the background does help quite a bit. It saves it from being completely lackluster and completely dependent on Hikari, who is taking up a lot of the screen. So sure, it's not the end of the world, because thanks for your money. I said what I said. Yeah, so Hikari, since she is so close to the screen, she can kind of get away with the rest of the background being a little because it's just an elevator. So there's not really much you can do. So it's a good thing Hikari is so close. And hey, Hikari's adorable. So like, what's the problem, right? And I will say that does mean your enjoyment of this live 2D is basically 95% dependent on whether you like Hikari. But liking Hikari is a global thing. I feel like the discrepancy between whether people preferred Hikari or Nozomi before they were released and we got to know more about them as people was like, I would say like 90 Hikari, 10 Nozomi. And that's not backed by anything except my own biased quote-unquote intuition. Once they became playable and all the Nozomi wife jokes started spreading around, that also made me switch over to becoming a Nozomi fan. What can I say? I'm not exactly known for being a very loyal person when it comes to these students. Secondly, that doesn't change the fact that I chose Hikari at the beginning because her character design is so lovely. And there is something to say about small students dressed so professionally. Highlander knows what they're doing. For sure. What can I say? If I became a teacher at Highlander, I would be the most devoted teacher in that universe. Even if all the students are brats, I can handle it. The eye candy is more than enough. Anyway, so back to Hikari. and if we're talking about color composition too, Hikari yellow, green, blue, dark blue, light blue, white. It's all there. It's enough. It's kind of got this like matcha mint flavor, matcha mint design with a little bit of a dark contrast. So overall, what's there to dislike? Unless you don't like Hikari for some reason, then I guess D tier for you. But for me, I feel like the situation here is A minus general. A because of her cheeks, and that's not ridiculous to say. That's not ridiculous to say. Why did Haruka get up to the A tier? Cause Haruka. Why did Hikari get up to the A tier? Cause Hikari. Next. Okay. Himari aside, all of Himari aside, the background here, well, so we got the bright screen in the back, but then we also have, in general, sort of a dim room. I guess if you're considering this technology atmosphere, this bright screen dim room ambience is expected. Is BGM choice included? No, because we're just really talking about wallpaper mostly. Now, like I said with Akko's and Aoba's, there's a niche required to fully enjoy this live 2D. You either will love this live 2D or you will not like this live 2D. I don't really think there's any room to be indifferent. In my case, okay, well, I'm about to be the most hypocritical person ever here. In my case, I'm not exactly indifferent. I don't want feet on my screen. I also don't think that's ridiculous to say. I don't want them taking up the screen, all right? I like characters for their upper half design mostly. Usually their face and the rest of their composition. But what really does it for me, at least in my final consideration of her ranking, is really, even though I'm talking about how I understand the bright screen dim room atmosphere, it leaves something to be desired, in my opinion. And for me, that desire is too strong for me to consider her for the A flat tier. A minus tier is still a contender, but then again, this is a very niche live 2D that banks around whether you like Himari, and to put it bluntly, whether you like feet. So, with that considered, top of B tier. Because, I mean, the background's not boring, it's just... I've made my case about dim lighting multiple times. Okay. Well, everyone loves Hina. Wow. It's just so strange that her legs are like cylinders, dude. It's like you know how some characters are designed. Hina is parallel lines, two parallel lines. I don't know what to say about it. Ignoring that, getting to the crux of the live 2D here. This was the first live 2D I unlocked with Relationship Story. I'm not ashamed about it. When I first started playing, Hina was the main girl, and that, that's completely fine. Hina's still the main girl for a lot of people now, but Hina really is just mass appeal, and take that as you will. again, this is sort of playing on that casual clothes niche. If you like characters at their minimum, you will love this Live 2D and Hares. If you prefer elegant clothing like dress alts, let's say, this might put you off a little bit. But overall, I mean, most people like Hina, and if you're most people, you should love this L2D no problem. The lighting is a great balance. Nothing really hurts your eyes, except maybe if you stare at this corner for 5 minutes. You shouldn't be staring up here because there's so much more you could look at. That being said, perfectly fine, perfectly serviceable. I would say this does bump her into the A tier. The background is better than Hikari's, and right there. You know, Hina and Fuka, I'm sure they're great friends. They deserve to be right next to each other. I confess, thematically appropriate. I confess that I don't love this Live 2D. In fact, I don't really like this Live 2D. That is not to say I dislike it. Let's just say it's indifference verging on negative feelings. And the reason for that is really just because the art style feels old. That's really the only reason. And I will say it's not as bad as Hasumi's. And this, wow, that hurts. Okay, don't look up here. Bright light with very dim rest, it gives you a really moody atmosphere that you have to like to truly appreciate. I can appreciate it from time to time, but overall, if I'm going for a wallpaper worthy of my monitor, this is not the one for me, and I don't see it being the one for a lot of people. Because really, if you want to put a sister, you have Mari, and if you want to put Hinata, you have her swimsuit. So really, this is just outclassed, dude. This Live 2D is honestly outclassed. And you can't really fault Hinata for it, but it's like with Himari's, a lot to be desired. And honestly, it's pretty much Himari level. I'm actually going to move Chiaki's up because I think Chiaki's is more serviceable for the average person. So I think you can get away with Chiaki's much better than you can with others. Okay, speaking of niches. So again, we have the hospital bed atmosphere, the hospital room, which again, it's just not special. It's really similar to Aru's, the background at least. It's not that lackluster, but it's really threatening to miss. Now, considering the subject matter at hand, again, it's all about niches, and I think maybe this niche is a little easier to get into. So overall, the general appeal, I mean, this is really bad to say of Hiyori, of all students, but Hiyori's figure has natural appeal. And that's a very general statement, and you can clearly see what I'm talking about without me having to go into specifics. Just because of that's probably why this Live 2D, despite the rest of it being a little the main focus of it is still probably appealing enough to anyone who's really into this kind of stuff. If I was like everyone else on their Uwo shitposting arc, I'd have so much more to say, but it's just another one of those niches that you gotta appreciate to appreciate. I will say, Hiyori's hair color is nice. Wow, it's really ironic that Hoshino is right after her too. Because I was about to make a Yume joke. Hoshino... Now look, remember when I said this, when there's blue, there's bias, and there is a lot of blue for me to be biased about. For one, this shade of blue, and there's a lot of contrast too. The water bubbles are making for a really nice animated atmosphere. And again, we can compare this to Hanako's in a way. The pink of Hoshino's hair and halo do give her a really nice contrast to the rest of the background, which is really similar to how it was with Hanako's. Honestly, I mean, this is with like almost every character in Blue Archive, but the left cheek, our perspective, right cheek, our perspective, left cheek, theirs, right. This left cheek is just always so loose and pinchable. Just off topic, by the way. But yeah, it's like this is blue and water and gradients are the one exception. Blue water gradients are the one exception to when I complain about one color backgrounds, because this is just so appealing on the eyes. Unless you are averse to blue, then I don't think it's hard to say that this is a really good L2D, especially for how old it must be, given Hoshino's old 3-star. What I will say is that one of my current monitor's backgrounds is blue at all times. It's Arona looking up at the stars during Volume F. So yes, I do have a really strong connection to blue. So that's where the bias comes from. But with all that considered, somewhere in the A tier. You know what? I was gonna say let the rivalry commence, but nah. I like Hoshino's more than Airi's. I think it's more appealing. Alright. This Live 2D has good color. Be careful if you're looking around the right side. It might hurt if you stare at it for a couple seconds too long. Other than that, Blackboard green, it just does not really do it for me. Blackboard green with wood, I don't know. It feels a little too enclosed for me. Now, we've had worse, so all things considered, this is fine. It's very simple Live 2D that really depends on you thinking that Ibuki is a really cute student. Otherwise, this Live 2D is gonna really fall off for you. But since most people think, that Ibuki is a cute student, myself included, this Live 2D has a similar appeal to Hikari's, is that mostly look at Ibuki, let the mellow background complement how flashy she is, and the rest is all you need. The rest is done. Right? So, in the end, it doesn't even matter. Ibuki, yeah, like very similar appeal to Hikari's. I will say, I think hers is a little nicer than maybe some of these, maybe because it's newer as well. The new art style really does carry some of these for me. All right, so we've discovered a new genre of single color that works. We had Snow White, we had water blue, now we have blossom pink. I know I shouldn't be making so many exceptions, but I'm not gonna lie to you and say this background looks bad. It doesn't. It looks wonderful. Ugh. Okay, okay, okay. Just a little. Please work with me. Just a little more bias, okay? Numerous times in the past hour, I have complained that a lack of color variance is usually problematic. And besides backgrounds, the one exception to character design is the Justice Task Force design. Black dominant is how you get away with not basic, simple color designs that work. If something is mostly black, as you see here, black wings, shirt, skirt, hair, with one other color except white, red, little pinkish too. Even the balloon and her halo are the same color. This is crazy. There's like 4 unique colors on the screen, and yet this live 2D is so appealing. It pops perfectly. It doesn't pop too much because Ichika herself, her design is so simple, yet it's alluring for the right reasons. You can tell why everyone loves Ichika's design, in spite of the fact that it's counterintuitively so basic and so devoid of color. There's just something special about the JTF design that makes the JTF mob and Ichika, which everyone knows is the upgraded mob, so adorable and just so wonderful to look at. I think I've said wonderful like 3-4 times. Just apologize for that, but there's not really much else to say. All the good adjectives you can think of. It really is as simple as it needs to be. And that really was like the idea behind Hoshino's. That was the idea behind Chise's. But Ichika being Ichika, of course, transcends both of that. Now, I think Hanako's, Ayane, by some extension, is kind of the same appeal as Ichika's, but Ayane is really carried by the fact that she doesn't have her glasses on in Live 2D. That really helps her Live 2D be as special as it is. If she had her glasses on, but no Megane Ayane. It's a niche worth fighting for. In Ichika's case, I don't hate her being high A tier. In fact, maybe I put her a little too low, and I'm sure since I mentioned that, I'm pretty sure since I mentioned that, a lot of people are going to be inclined to agree with me just because it's Ichika, but I'm just saying. How do you pat her head if she's up in a tree? Oh, you mean like patting her head normally? Well, I don't know. You can climb on the other branch. Just don't worry about the specifics too much. If you want, we can load in the game real quick and we can defy some physics. Anyway, let's move on. So we do have more of a hospital bed ambience. Now, here's the part where I'm supposed to complain for the 4th time, but I guess we do have to focus on the core matter of this screen, this experience. It's important to note that Hiyori, especially Iori's back, target 2 key appeals that I'm sure most people agree with. 1, Hiyori is one of the more tan students of Blue Archive. 2, exposed skin. I mean, do I have to explain myself? I think the L2D explains itself quite well. And Hiyori being the semi-tsundere that she is, a moment of serenity with someone like that is what most people just wish they could have. And they'll catch themselves smiling when they shouldn't be, just watching this live 2D and seeing Hiyori get so close to Sensei, even though she's so hostile to him all the rest of the time. Yeah. unlike the other niches, this one, even like unlike Hiyori's too, this niche is, I would say, pretty easy to get into. I would say probably A minus tier. Again, I don't like, I don't really like the hospital bed ambience, but I still think this live 2D is perfectly serviceable. Alright, so we have a couple things we have to note here. One, again, like literally, not literally, but basically just like the previous one, Iroha's secret room, the ambience is a little on the mellower side. But because this is a like secret hangout, it's not expected to be too flashy like Azusa's couch. Like, that's a completely different story. Not completely different, but different enough. Here, I think we all know what the main appeal is. Look, everyone knows the Iroha poison joke, and it's no surprise why that joke resonates with so many people. You take one look at Iroha's face right here, and it tells you everything you need to know and more. And yes, her paradise of fluffy woolly sheep's hair. I mean, it is a little tucked away, and I feel like there's a little less than it should be, but fine. But yes, I think the main attraction of this specific live 2D is that damned smile, that damned grin, that smug grin. It's so trademarked Iroha that Iroha is really what makes this live 2D, and it's really similar to Ibuki's and Hikari's especially, but Iroha being the person she is and her being as smug as she is really what makes this live 2D as special as it is, because otherwise it'd just be like Hiyori's all over again. That being said, I don't think it's too special that it bumps its way into the A tier, but it's got enough going for it that I think it's perfectly serviceable in the A minus tier. Now, as for how far, nothing too crazy. I think here it suffice. I'm actually moving Chiaki again up into the A minus tier. After thinking a while a bit more, some of these have similar appeals to Chiaki, so it's not really right to put her in the B tier when I've really been preserving the B tier for like niches, especially when you consider the size of some of the students is very predictable down there in the B tier. But here in the A minus tier, you know, I'll move Eimi down. I'll move Chiaki. I would say the appeal is similar to Aoba's. Now, some of you might accuse me that that's just biased towards Chiaki, and I would agree. Wholeheartedly. There's no sugarcoating that. Now, for some reason, Nexon just won't stop giving us these mellow gray backgrounds. We had Hiyori's, we had Iori's, we had Iroha's, and now we have Izumi's, and they're all... I appreciate, you know, the theme of these, but I do wish we would get back into the popping colors, you know? But for now, there's no problem with this one. This is another one where Izumi, your appreciation for Izumi's character design will heavily influence whether you like this live 2D or not. It's Hikari's all over again, where the background is frankly boring, and if not for Izumi, there would be nothing interesting about it, except maybe if you're one of those people that's into minimalist backgrounds. But, dude, the side of the road, come on. That being said, it's serviceable enough that it's A minus tier. It's nothing harmful, and it's not too niche. The art style is fairly new enough. I would say similar level to maybe Alice or Eimi. Now here's where I become a sad, sad person. And I'm a sad person because Izuna is one of my favorite characters. In a top 10 list, there's a really good chance she might be on there. Now, there's only one problem with this live 2D, and that it is old. This is not a new live 2D. Alright? I mean, just look at it. It has the same feel to Hinata's that I didn't like. And almost approaching Hasumi's. Not quite. Nothing really has been as disappointing as Hasumi's. But, and if not for the art style drop too, this would be such a good live 2D because this background is just such a lovely blend of colors. Izuna, dude, she's Izuna. What else can you say? But it's just the fact that the way she's drawn is just not up to date with what we're used to. Hoshino's is all too, but it doesn't have this like weird grayish shading to it on the character. I mean, I could go back and like show you Hasumi's. It's like it's got this weird style and lack of defining that. It's just it's just missing something. And then let me go down to Hinata's because this is the argument I'm making. Really, just I something is just off about these, and I really hate to ever do anything bad to Izuna. I don't want to. I really don't want to. Izuna, like I said, probably one of my top 10 characters. The only issue is that it's just like, dude, even like the 3D shorts look better than her live 2D, which is not something that should happen. Just falling under the Hinata niche of old art, decent. I mean, it's not even that bad because to be honest, the composition of the live 2D is, sorry, that's not a frame I should be pausing on. The composition of the live 2D is magnificent. This blend of color in the background really gives you like this this ghostly feeling, like those old ghost folktales. It really does fit considering Izuna's dressed like a ninja. Let's just move on. Alright. Now, Junko, you can also clearly tell it seems a little bit of one of the older ones. She is a 2-star though, so it's not as old. Now, this is an example. Alright, this is good. This is an example of subtle blur. I know with the upscaling, some of the blur looks really bad, and you'll just have to excuse the situation we found ourselves in. But just the fact that the blur is so subtle that you can tell it tries to distract you from the blur, but the blur is still there so that it gives you this nice close far feeling, which is perfect. Now, if this had the same level of blur as Haruna's did, it would again feel like it's approaching stuffiness. But here the blur is so mellow, with all the stuff being so close in proximity to Junko, that it's honestly perfect. This level of blur is exactly as much as you need. And oh god, the bitrate is failing me. And Junko herself too. I mean, she's got a nice shade of red, and there's not too much more than red orange, but the rest of the background is kind of like a Airi situation where Junko herself might not be too appealing, even though I think, again, remember, black dominant or at least black semi dominant with red. I mean, this is Ichika all over again. But overall, this is pretty good for how old it seems to be. This works pretty well. Again, like if it's an Airi situation and it's executed as well as Airi's, then there's no doubt in me saying that it should perform just like Airi's does. If not better than some of the other ones, but I think just where Airi is perfectly fine. I do think Airi's maybe you could appreciate just a little more, but ooh, all right. Now we have a okay. A foreground blur. Now this is a new one. So this blur job. Wow, never say that again. This blurring that's been done to this L2D, magnificent. We have a foreground blur while keeping. I mean, if we're blurring the foreground, yeah, we don't have to blur everything else to make Jury pop out. She's already popped out enough as is. She's already really large on the screen. This is great, and the sky is so mellow but still bright enough that it's easy and appealing on the eyes. And again, it's always the characters with the pink hair that have the really good sky atmosphere or water atmosphere, or both. And I think Jury's character design is great. It's a bit of a shame that she can't cook, but yeah, I mean, there's really no complaints here. Green and red, outside of Christmas colors, that is a good color combo. And pink and blue, that's a good color combo too. It blends together well, but it doesn't blend together so well that you can't tell them apart. So honestly, all things considered, the Jury's live 2D, like methodically, is crafted very well. A tier probably. It's even like upwards of here too. It's just I think it's just so satisfying. Jury's live 2D is very very good. It's not amazing. I know I've given Hibiki a lot of bias by just letting her sit up there, but it's really the blurring. The blurring has done it for a lot of these some of these live 2Ds, and Jury's is absolutely no exception. But the color contrast too, it does its job so well. Alright, so with Kaede's, alright, I'll keep it playing. We have more of this foreground blur action. Pretty nice, pretty nice. And we do have some background blur too. I think if the no, because the table and the cards are too close to her. No, this works. This works. What do I say? Honestly, just it works. It works as well as it should. Would we were to say her head's a bit big? I don't think so. I think you're just contrasting it with her hands, which are just strangely small. I don't think it's her head that's big. I think it's her hands that's small. And I mean, either or, but it doesn't really bother me too much. I, it, it really, the blurring achieves a similar level to Jury's. However, the background here is a lot more mellow. Yet the mellowness is contrasted by first the color of the cards and the color of her uh, uniform and her eyes too. I don't know if it goes together too well. I think there was one character where I said the contrast didn't work as well as it should. I think Kaide's here is another example of the contrast is definitely there, but it doesn't blend together well enough. And let me see if I can find which character that was. Was that Eimi? No, Amy's was fine. I'm sure there's one character where even though there was some good contrast, it just felt out of place. Maybe Chinatsu's. So Chinatsu's again with like there's a pattern here with the mellow background and the bright red or the deep red. It feels out of place, and because the point really isn't to per se attract attention to Kaide's clothing. It's supposed to overall just give this balanced, soothing and appealing atmosphere, which I think is kind of detracted by the bright red with the mellow, like light whitish, peachish, however you call it. And even though the rest of the live 2D is done well, that's what's holding me back from giving this a higher rating. But A minus, it's nothing offensive. I think it just belongs somewhere here. Similar to Chinatsu's, but I think this one's a little better executed. I don't know why Fubuki's is so far back here. I guess it's because I said without Fubuki's a little boring, but once there's a 200, a couple of places to left or right, it's not that big of a deal. Now, Kaho's really depends on... I don't think it depends on the intro too much, but the appeal of Kaho is definitely explained by the intro. Now, the lighting here is good, even though it does look pretty bright, and her skin does look like it's trying to flash you. It's not so bright that it starts to hurt your eyes, unless you're like staring at it for a year. I, for one, I like the Chise doll. I have a strong affinity for character plushes. And Chise's design, I already said, is one of my favorites. So having a plush design of one of my favorite designs, that's like double design power. So I'm incredibly weak to this. If this was, maybe, if she was holding this, it wouldn't fit her character, but the L2D would be so much better, I tell you. If the plush was bigger on the screen in general, oh man. Anyway, and Kaho's design, you're gonna say no shit when I say this, but it's kind of like Akko's, in which her hair color for what color scheme it is, it's bright and it matches her eyes well. And the rest of her clothing, well, that's self-explanatory. Overall, I think it fits the same niche as Akko's, where the only difference with Kaho's is that the lighting is much better and it's easier on your eyes. Still a little dangerous when it comes to, playing the game in public if Kaho's on your screen. I think A- tier is perfectly serviceable. You can make an argument for A tier the same way I gave someone like Hikari and Hikari and Ibuki, those characters, the A flat tier. But for now, I think A- tier is perfectly fine. Alright, so I mentioned this with Ayane's, all the way back in Ayane's. And Hina's. I did bring it back for Hina's. There is an appeal to when characters remove their outer layers. So like a jacket, blazer, coat, what have you. and when they're reduced to just their shirt when they normally don't wear that little, it's special. And you always notice that it's usually with a more mellow atmosphere, either the afternoon, evening, like we saw for Ayane's, or more commonly the night, where we saw with Hina's and right now Kana's. I will say I don't think this is an izakaya, but let's just say it is. The stall, warm orange lighting mixed with the background, the blurred background night on the outside. I do appreciate the blurred night background. The only thing I will comment about is that there's not too much to blur, so it's not as effective. If there are more lights, maybe. I know the red lights being blurred, it does help. But aside from that, it's all black in the background, which it makes sense for this atmosphere as well. But for the blur to have been more effective, there should have been more to blur. We do get a little pinch of stars in this corner, but they're so small that you can barely tell unless you're looking up there. Overall, this warm, let's say like ramen bar atmosphere during the night is something you want to look forward to. This is one of the more appealing, in my opinion, backgrounds when it comes to live 2Ds. So for Kana and Kana's design, again with the removal of her outer layer, it's a side of her that you don't see all the time, and that's why Ayane is so high. That's why Hare is high, despite me complaining about the rest of the background. So in Kana's case, I think honestly this is well deserving of a flat A tier. It's not so incredible that it shoots up into the A plus tier, but it does its job perfectly well. There's nothing to complain about. I don't see why this doesn't deserve a proper A tier. I think right above Hoshino suffices. Again, after 200 live 2Ds, one L2D isn't necessarily better than the one to its right and worse than the one to its left. At that point, whatever. At that point, the general location where they are is... Okay. Let's get through this one quickly, okay? 1. Old light. Sorry, not old light. 1. Old art style. This is very similar to, let's say, Hinata's, or not even Izuna's. Izuna's was a little worse than this. But this is very similar to the level of art that we saw in something like Hinata's. Little lackluster. 2. The orange, the brownish couch outform, uniform, and ceiling. Very close to... Not very close to Akane's, but that mellowness in Kaede's maybe? The only caveat is that the appeal of Karen's live 2D, besides the fact that her piercing yellow eyes are a really big contrast to the rest of the screen, like Akane's, unless this color pleases your eyes, you will not like this live 2D, unless you really like stockings and feet. And that's really the obvious point to make here. I cannot sugarcoat that fact any more than as obvious as I have just put it. And you get a little bit of green back here, trivial, negligible. The niche level, Himari level, a little better. I'd say it's even better than Izuna's. I'd say top of B tier. And that's not Karen's fault. It's actually Nexon's fault for the way they designed all of Karen's L2Ds. It honestly, like, Karen as a character, I feel like she does not deserve that. Do it to Asuna. Don't do it to Karen. And the only reason why they're doing it to Karen is she's one of 2 dark-skinned students besides Hiyori. Anyway. Oh my god. And just when you thought, oh my god. Look, my opinion is not supposed to be influenced by the L2D I reviewed before. But it's just, ignoring the flashbang of the beginning of the introduction, this live 2D is not bad. It it's honestly similar to Iroha's, very similar to Iroha's. The way Kasumi's just chilling, the background is fairly mellow, but not so mellow. Honestly, Kasumi's maybe a little better overall because it's a little brighter, and Iroha gets some points, one because of her smugness and two because of her hair. Kasumi, she has her tail and her signature smugness too, so I guess they're even on that regard. I mean, the background is nothing noteworthy. There's nothing to praise about the background. Is this a safe or is it a micro? I guess it's a safe because of the ring. This is an office space? I don't care. I don't care. But where Kasumi is concerned, yeah, she's totally fine. And again, I don't think there's anything too special that brings her up into the A tier. I don't really look at L2D intros because in some cases I'm really just thinking about the looping animation. I think this is honestly better than Hari's. Because Hari, the background really just drags it down for me. I don't like the background of hers. Alright, Kayoko bias incoming. If you don't like Kayoko, I apologize for the next 2 minutes. Alright, recall what I said with Ichika. Black, dark. Basically, because it's a little bluish. No, but her actual sprite is completely black. And it's because the blue rain atmosphere... Alright, let me get to my point. Black dominant or semi-dominant, in this case dominant. Black dominant theme contrasted with one other major color. In this case, it just so happens to be white. So we have our first great monochrome. But, you know, there's a tinge of red in her predator eyes. And by some extension, her coat. Or her jacket, sorry. Or her hoodie, yeah. The fact that it's the colors blended with the blue rainy atmosphere, it just makes for such a nice and comforting atmosphere. I think I used that word twice in a row, but whatever. It's just, there's not too much to say because there's not too much to look at. This Live 2D does benefit from the fact that the background design is simple, that it doesn't detract away from Kayoko too much. There have been some cases, if I'm allowed to say, that despite the fact that the background seems simple, there was still a lot that you could focus on, that like Himari's, Kaide's, Kasumi's. Even though those backgrounds are simple and a little dull, there are so many things that you can focus on, like so many hanging notes. There's a chair, the safe, the shelf. Here, there are 2 walls with a big graffiti, couple of posters, what is it, a peace sign, and the back half of a car. Besides that, you can't really focus on too much that isn't already pretty close to Kayoko because she's so focused on the screen. Overall, despite the fact that, to be fair, this does seem a little older, especially compared to her other 2 Live 2Ds, this one is a very good one. It's simple enough, and Kayoko as a character, her design excels with simple. With Hifumi, her character excels with light, right? When Hifumi has a bright background, she's twice as strong. With Kayoko, when she has like a more mellow, simple background, she's twice as strong. All that considered, I think it's like it bumps up from Cherino's a little bit. It maybe overtakes some of these. I was just comparing her to Hifumi, so honestly, maybe around Hifumi level. Alright, so what to say about Kazusas? The thing about Kazusa's is it's simple enough. I mean, it's kind of like what I was saying with Kayoko's, where am I almost out of time? It's kind of like what I was saying with Kayoko's, is that even though there's a lot of things here, they're all organized enough that you can't really get distracted by too much that isn't already close to Kazusa. Here, you literally cannot focus on anything. Over here, it's so close to the foreground that Kazusa is just right there. Now, I will say, I think one of the big appeal probably for this L2D for some people is probably the cat hoodie. I'm sure a lot of people find a strong interest in that. Kind of like Iroha's, honestly. Iroha and Kasumi's, where she's just minding her own business in the foreground. She's got that black dominant that I said you cannot look bad in all black, and with the pink contrasts and a little bit of the green in her uniform, what's not to like? What's not to like? And she's got a little bit of a pinkish red in her eyes too. The bright highly saturated eyes are always the most effective. One exception, I guess, is Akane's maybe, but then again, that's another niche. So in the end, it's fine. Probably A minus tier. I know some people would probably assume that I put an A tier. I mean, better than Kasumi's and Aroha's, but bias. What can I say? Bias. It's kind of similar to Kayoko's. Maybe she should be Kayoko's tier. Which would be crazy, putting the cat right next to Kayoko as it was intended. Which is crazy that in alphabetical order, Kayoko is preceded by the two cat girls. Oh well. Alright, so Kikyo's Live 2D heavily revolves around this noir, inkish feel that is enhanced by these duller colors. I think where Akane's falls flat and this one is boosted in some way is that, again, with Akane's there's like one blend of colors. Here you have some contrast with the red and the blue in the books, the green in the poster, the blue in her uniform. The light is not so bright either. In Akane's, the light through the window was actually so bright that it would be hard to look at. Here you could look straight at the light source and it does not hurt your eyes. And that's the level of light you kind of want for this kind of dim atmosphere. So this is kind of one of the examples where a dim, dull atmosphere can work. At least better than a lot of the others that we've seen before. Still, and Kikyo is the person that works better in a dimmer light, so I understand. I don't know if I would prefer if she was in a more... Yeah, I don't know. She definitely wouldn't work in like a super flashy atmosphere. I guess with her alt, that will beg to differ because I know swimsuit alts are never dull, but especially not the recent ones. Kikyo in an old storage, old art storage room. It's definitely some niche. I still think the wallpaper appeal. His level is similar level to just down here, but it's definitely not B tier. It excels where the B tier L2Ds are either too niche or fall short. In Akane and Karen's case, fall short for sure. But Is it A flat tier? I think that's a wallpaper. The dimness is too niche. No, because it's like it's good. It's a good rainy day atmosphere. I think if it was maybe a little bluer and a rainy day, that's just my bias kicking in. But hear me out. If it was like rain against the windowsill, I think that would help Kikyo quite a bit. But with what we have, I'm not unhappy with it. Still. So I'm gonna get flack for this if I drop her here. Right above Hikari. Again, Hikari's background was a little basic. And Kikyo's is a little interesting, I suppose. Alright, so we're looking at Kiana Castellana stuck against a railing because she's clumsy and dumb. Classic Cherino. Now, the background again has a similar blur level and appeal as Junko's, and by some extension, Airi's. The only difference is we get a full body low angle of Cherino, and obviously for very good reason. I don't have to explain what that reason is. Therefore, your enjoyment of this L2D again highly hinges on whether you appreciate and enjoy Cherino's design. And in the way she is right now, it's much harder to say no as opposed to yes in terms of liking her design. I'd say this is a well done Life 2D. No extra comments. No extra comments, officer. I'm just going to give Cherino her deserved ranking. I don't know why Kirara was supposed to go first. I don't know why she didn't. Oh well, everyone makes mistakes, right? So I'm gonna put Cherino. What type of appeal is her Live 2D similar to? It's either A or A minus, and I can't really tell how I think it compares to all the other ones we've seen so far. Because in a way, you could argue that it's kind of the same level as Fubuki's, but honestly, I think the angle of the shot and the blur does amplify the background of the Live 2D a lot more, which is pretty important when we're considering like wallpapers and stuff. I mean, these bottom of A tiers, I didn't mean to let go of her. These bottom of A tiers are kind of a similar appeal to Cherino's, where they're a little simple overall, but they blend together well in a way that barely pushes them up to the top. And I think Cherino, especially combined with the low angle and the subtle blur, does give her some bonus points there. So I'm gonna put her below Haruka. I would say she's pretty similar to Haruka's on an enjoyment level, but to each their own. Someone told me to look at the comments on this one, so I guess I'll have to do that in just a bit. Alright, well, okay, so, the appeal of Kisaki's Live 2D very strongly resembles the appeal of Kikyo's Live 2D, where we have this very mellow atmosphere. I will say the subtle blue here, paired with the gradient, the ambient lighting here that does bleed into the rest here, I think Kisaki's live 2D is definitely easier to look at than Kikyo's. It's a lot simpler in concept too, where Kikyo, since it was kind of like an abandoned art room or an older art room, there's so much to look at. Here in Kisaki's case, suitcase, it's just literally just a suitcase, a chair, her suit, her clothes that she took off. I guess you could call it undressing if you really want to go there. Some blinds, right? The outside, city sky, very, very far in the background. Again, background blur works best when something's very far in the distance, but when there's so little of it, it's not that effective. Still, Kisaki is in this middle ground between refined in an unrefined way, right? That's definitely what it seems to me, because the way she's sitting here is so awkward, and yet because she is the president of Genrumon, she exudes authority regardless, and so it creates this weird oxymoron clash of emotions that gives this L2D a bit of I mean, I've used this word like 10 times. Somber. I like using that word. A bit of a moody feel. I know moody is so vague, but just saying it and comparing it with this L2D, I'm sure you understand what I mean. Where's Kirara's? Oh, it's so far down. I'll just move her before. Oh, it's going down the list because YouTube playlists are terrible. That's great. All right, there we go. So, I think, like I said, more effective than Kikyo's, and just cause she's Kisaki, yeah, it's the similar story with Alice, Haruka. Her character alone automatically gives her points just because she is that character, and it really does work that way. It truly does work that way. There's no denying that certain characters just have more global appeal, and Kisaki is definitely one of those cases. Now, I didn't love her live 2D when it was first released, and I still don't. It's still not one of my favorites, but yeah, I mean, it's not bad, so it's not really much to complain about. I guess that she's a similar level to like Hifumi's. Hifumi all light, Kisaki all dim, darkness, night. So yeah, in general, I think Hifumi's, even though it's much older, I still think it's more appealing overall. But Kisaki's perfectly fine as well. I'm actually going to stop here for now because it's getting late and I have a couple more things I have to do. So I'm going to pause for now and maybe I'll stream the rest some other time, maybe when I get home tomorrow or maybe next week. Thanks for being here. Hope you guys had a fun time, even though I had a whole other stream longer than this one that was just setting up and playing Sporkle. But, yep, I hope you guys enjoyed your time here. I will bid you all farewell now, and hopefully the next time I open a live 2D stream, we can pick up where we left off, and we can do some more peak live 2D reviews. But for now, this is where our journey ends momentarily. Until then, and I will see you all. Where's my music tab? Oh, I closed it. Well, that's awkward. Yep. Until next time.